You're listening to
the Beer O'Clock.
The Beer O'Clock Show.
You're listening to the Beer O'Clock Show.
It's Beer O'Clock, and this is the Beer O'Clock Show, coming to you from London. I'm Mark, and joining me, the man from Essex, and with the big, it's actually sunny for a bit nowadays, smile, it's Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing very well, mate. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Also joining us tonight for the latest instalment in our series on the Irish craft beer scene, from the Irish Beer Snob podcast, it's Mr. and Mrs. Snob, Wayne and Janice. Hello, you guys.
Hey, guys.
Hi.
You alright?
We're good, mate. How are you?
Very good. First of all, a big thanks to everyone who joined us online last Sunday for our live episode 100 YouTube shindig. It was great fun. Twitter was literally on fire. And now the polished up and bow-tied edited version of episode 100 is available in case you missed it on the website and on the iTunes. So let's have a little chat about our beery weeks. Steve, you go first, mate. How's your beery week been?
It's been a pretty decent week, beer-wise, mate. Just enjoying some really good stuff at home, and a few cheeky ones out with you on. I think it was Thursday night last week. We had a little night out, didn't we?
We did, yeah. We'll get to that in a little while. Have you had anything spectacular?
Anything spectacular? Yes, but I can't remember what it was. So it clearly couldn't have been that spectacular.
Obviously, super spectacular.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. You know what? I did. I had a beer which I actually rated as a 5 on Untapped, which is
right.
Fairly rare. But do you think I can think what it was now? Yes, there we go. That's it. A beer called George by Michela, which is an imperial stout. It was absolutely amazing, mate. It was like thick, really kind of chocolatey, some hints of coffee in there. It was just one of the best imperial stouts I've had in a long, long time. And I've really, really enjoyed it. I'd also had a beer which I don't think is available anymore now. It was one of 4 Piers Seasonals, Southern Latitude, which was American Pale Ale brewed with Southern Hemisphere hops, which was absolutely stunning. It was just like drinking lemon and lime in a glass. It was so refreshing. It was nice. Really, really enjoyable. Yeah. They were probably the 2 standouts of the week.
Okay, how about you, Janice? Let's ladies first on the Irish side.
Well, recently I got to try a new beer called Bonita from a new brewery called Oh Brother Brewing, and they call it an Indian brown ale or
Indian dark beer.
Indian dark beer.
Basically, black IPA or Cascadian dark ale, or whatever kind of BJCP style you want to attribute to it. It's a hoppy black beer.
Yeah, but it was gorgeous.
So that was from Old Brothers Brewing, did you say?
Yeah.
Where are they from?
They're from County Wicklow.
Yeah, 3 brothers from Brewery in Wicklow. So that's just to the south of Dublin. They kind of launched with an IPA, an American red ale.
Yeah. So
very, very bitter. Not like your traditional Irish red. It was exceptionally hoppy. Really good beer. 3 nice lads as well. I met them at their launch. They had kind of a little shindig in one of the bottle shops in Dublin, and it was good to kind of meet the lads. So I've kind of interacted with them on email and Twitter and things. But yeah, the Bonita is a very nice beer as well.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Okay, what else, Janice, have you had this week?
This week I actually had a cider, and that's made locally as well. It was a Boyne Valley cider, and that was thirst quenching. That was on Sunday. Actually, that was yesterday. Saturday.
Must have been a good cider.
To be honest, I actually haven't been drinking that much for the past week, so they're the only 2 that have really stood out for me.
Okay, and how about you, Wayne?
Yeah, kind of similar enough. We were at a launch of a new restaurant on Saturday night or Friday night, and it was kind of like I knew it was not going to be serving the best of beers, but there was a little bit of redemption there when discovered that they were serving Delirium Tremens and Mongoso gluten-free Pilsner as well. I'm trying to think. I was looking through my Untapped there just before we came on. I definitely had some great beers at the Irish Beer Festival there over Paddy's Day. Like 8 Degrees have a new one called Enigma. Then there's Bucket that we had from Black Donkey. There was some really good beers as well, but I've kind of been not drinking as much the last few days. I don't know why. I just suppose on Saturday we just had a couple of beers at home, nothing too wild. Keeping our powder dry, as they say.
We've all had more beer than me. The sneezes that I featured on in our live show last week quickly turned into... I was literally crippled with flu. Crippled, people. So I haven't had anything apart from the little night that I had out with Steve on Thursday.
You needed a big group. There.
Yeah.
Missed Steve.
Oh, dub one in.
Yeah. Let's get people to send in their hashtag poor Mark.
Yeah.
When they're listening to this week's show.
If people think I'm sounding a bit husky tonight, you should have heard me last week. I had proper Barry White going on. It was epic.
Nice.
So talking about that Thursday night, Steve, that was the latest Wee Beastie event from Harvesttoon.
It was indeed. Yes, it was at the Elgin in Maida Vale, which is in London, and we got to sample the latest 2 offerings that are coming from the Wee Beastie series that Harvesttoon are doing now. Obviously, we're not going to talk about them now because that would make our spin-off show redundant. So as soon as we get the samples from Harvesttoon, we'll be recording episode 3 of Wee Beastie, and we'll be letting that loose.
Yeah, and the Elgin is a great little pub. But can I just say, 11 quid for 2 cans of Beavertown? Fuck off.
Oh, yeah, that was... I forgot about that. I completely forgot about that.
That is... I understand London pricing, but fuck off.
Yeah,
That's ridiculous.
That was taking the piss.
How much did we pay for that bottle of Dead Pony Club in Leeds Bradford Airport that time? Was it £6?
£6.
Oh, that's just people that have gone mad. I mean, yeah. I was shocked at the 11 quid for 2 cans of Beavertown. It's good beer, but $5.50 a can, nah, that's taking it too far.
Because I gave you a £5 and thinking, I might get 50p or a pound of change out of that for mine. Nah.
Wow. I'm just trying to do the reverse calculation there in euro. That would make that about
100 euros, basically.
Trillion euros, I think. It's about €8 or €9.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite extreme.
What is that, 8 or 9 per can?
Yeah.
Jesus
Holy
Christ.
shit! You're joking. I hate that. Oh my god.
You see, in England they open the can before they pass it across the bar, don't they?
Yes, and that's I got caught out with that as well.
Yeah, like at that stage you can't say no. Like it's a thing that happened to me a couple of times here where, you might go in on payday for a few beers and you're feeling a bit flush and you go, I'll have the mad stuff. I think there was one night I paid nearly 9 quid for a bottle of Thornbridge Jaipur. I almost puked when I got my tab receipt at the end of the night.
Saw you coming.
I was like, you know what? I won't make that mistake again. I'll always ask how much it is before I commit to putting it on the tab, because it's just like I've been kind of caught out a couple of times that way. But yeah, that's that. I suppose that's, you can't even justify it with like logistics costs or anything.
No. I mean, it's it's not like it's 100 miles away from the brewery.
It's like the Bakerloo line away. That's
it. Yeah.
Delivered by carrier pigeon.
Exactly. Right, so Stevie, we've got some news, mate.
Always.
Okay, Wayne, Janice, which of you are going to do the pips?
Janice.
Me.
Come on, Janice, you let me down last time.
Peep, 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 peep.
Perfect.
Brilliant. Okay, so we're going to start off with some awards news this week. 2 lots of awards last week. Firstly were the Publicans Awards, in which Fuller's and Oakman Inns were big winners, where they both jointly won 3 awards each. Fuller's won the Best Managed Pub Company and Best Food Offer for their bars. And also featuring in that those awards were Brewdog, who took a Best Brand / Concept Award for its fast-growing estate of craft beer bars. The other set of awards were at CBRX, which is kind of the independent version of the Great British Beer Festival. It was running in Sheffield last week. It unveiled 3 supreme champions who were Brass Castle Brewery, who we've featured on the show before. They won the National Cask Beer competition for their Burnout beer. St Austell won the National Bottled Beer competition for Big Job. And the Wild Beer Company won Madness IPA in the National Keg competition. So you can check out all of the winners from all the various medals in that event at beerx.org. Unless you've had your head buried in the sand in the past week, you would have missed the announcement that the Chancellor announced a penny cut on the beer duty. What this means for us drinkers is not a lot, really, because generally that penny is taken at the wholesale cost rather than what you're liable to see on the bar. More news in terms of some things that you can get your hands on now. So a new subscription service has launched, Bottle and Bean. This is a new service which brings together coffee and beer, an interesting matching concept there. So you can get craft beer and specialty coffee delivered to your doorstep every month. There'll be live online tasting events broadcast directly from breweries and roasteries, and there'll be beer and coffee from different leading independent brands each month. You can check out all of the details about Bottle and Bean at bottleandbean.com. And we're hoping to line something up with the guys from Bottle and Bean to do something a bit special in the summer. So watch this space on that one. A few other little mentions. This week sees the launch of a much-anticipated collaboration between Magic Rock and Adnams. The Herbalist is a saison that is being launched. I think it's being launched in London this week, but should soon be available all over the country. I'm hoping to get along to the launch, so I'll give you a full report on that next week. And then just a few other things. Just wanted to give a few shout-outs, really, as part of the news this week, because we were all over the place last week. You couldn't have missed the Beer O'Clock show. Once again, where we lead, others are following. So on Thursday night, Beer Bods, their featured beer was Jarl. Now, obviously, we featured that a few episodes ago, and they're just following in our footsteps there. But also, in the wake of that, we were also getting mentions all over the place from the podcast Brotherhood. So we had mentions on the RG podcast last week. Stephen Rowland on their podcast mentioned us, and this was all kind of congratulations around the 100th show. And then also, and it was great to see him back, Ian and 11 PM Somewhere returned last week with a new podcast, and he gave us a great mention at the end. That wasn't really news, but I thought I'd wedge it in somewhere. And then finally, the last 2 items of news is some stuff that I want to bring our guests in on, because I'm sure they'll have some views on this. So firstly, Diageo launches a Guinness Golden Ale. This is going to come in as part of their premium bottled ale range next month. It's a 4.5% ABV brewed using the Guinness yeast, hops and Irish barley. Guys, what are we thinking about this announcement?
Well, they've not announced that over here yet.
Brilliant. Okay, so you didn't even know about it.
That's news to us.
Informative as ever, Steve. I would imagine that this is kind of somewhere similar to some of the products that they have in America that have Guinness name on them, but will never see the light of day in Ireland. I wouldn't be surprised if we see it eventually. Like, Guinness are pushing big time their new lager that they've called Hop House 13. They've basically, the slogan I think is more taste, more hops, more character. The name is apparently after some random hop storage house in James's Gate. There is reputedly Mosaic hops in this lager. It's meant to be a step above Carlsberg and Heineken, which isn't saying a lot. The cynic in me thinks a company the size of Diageo just making a beer with Mosaic to torpedo some of the other craft breweries that are making some great summer beers with Mosaic hops. You know, read into that what you will. I haven't heard anything about the beer you've just mentioned, Steve. So I will await that with bated breath.
Okay.
Sure you will.
Yeah, so moving on to the next news item then. Since you've killed that one so aptly.
Sorry.
There was a fairly big. That's fine, mate. It's fine, honestly. There was a fairly big beer launch over your side of the pond a few weeks back, wasn't there?
Yeah, 200 Fathoms Galway Bay Brewing. It's the second edition of their Imperial Stout that's aged in whiskey casks. Last year's version was aged in yellow spot casks, but this year Galway Bay teamed up with Teeling's Whiskey, which are a new independent distillery that's opening in the Liberties in Dublin 8 this year. Their distillery is being installed as we speak. But we were both at the launch night in the Brewdock, which you were in the last time you were over. And to say that there was a carnival-like atmosphere in there is really understating it. It's a mate of mine on Twitter, Beer Mac, he's from Durham, but he kind of commented, he was over in San Francisco at the time, and he says, US-type beer craft hysteria, like literally all the Galway Bay bars sold out of their allocations within half an hour on the night. Like Brewdog got them on Thursday, and then all the pubs in the rest of the chain got them on Friday, and there was people queuing outside Against the Grain, another bar we were in, at 12 o'clock on Friday, and all of their allocation was gone by 12:30.
Wow, that's fairly good going, isn't it?
It's unheard of in Irish beer circles. Like, we've obviously seen the hype and the legitimate compliments given to the beers like Foam and Fury, but 200 Fathoms has just totally raised the notch. I think I was in with Ken in Drinkstore there earlier, and he just said it's the beer that's just sent them over the top. It's so good that it deserves every bit of hype that it has received, and obviously you'll be receiving yours shortly. But it's just an amazing experience. It's a big, heavy, smooth Imperial Stout with all the subtleness of the whiskey. I wonder if Teelings are taking a few of the casks back to maybe experiment a bit. We might see that in the future. But to say there was unprecedented hype about this launch and demand, it was just ridiculous.
But the great thing about it as well, though, on the night of the launch, somebody actually had a bottle of last year's 200 Fathoms, and we got to taste them both side by side, which was pretty epic.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. It's always good to be able to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, it was ace. Like, very, very different flavour profiles.
Completely.
You know, I don't really know. It's hard to describe. I think I found this year's version a little bit sweeter than last year, and I was kind of going on memory. And then when one of the guys at the bar just popped out last year's bottle and just gave a nod to the manager, and the manager's like, "What's that?" And it's like, "It's last year's 200 Fathoms." And he's like, "You all right to do a vertical tasting?" And he's like, "Yeah, no problem. Just here, pop it open." And there was maybe 4 or 5 of us at the bar kind of sipping them to see what the differences were. Quite pronounced. My initial kind of thoughts were I preferred last year, and then the more I kind of drank this year's version, I was like,
I much preferred this year.
This is a much better beer. It's brewed at a higher gravity, I think, and it finished a little bit higher, and I think that's where the sweetness, you'll see it yourself very soon, but it pours really viscous. It's like, you probably saw the Craft Beer Chat Lads channel with their tasting on YouTube as well. Like, it's every bit deserving of all the kudos and hype it's getting at the moment, and it really is a fantastic feast of brewing in this country at the moment.
Well, we're going to tuck ours away for a little bit, Wayne, and until our sort of winter season, and then we're going to pull it out and feature it just before Christmas. So you guys make sure you hang on to a bottle of yours, because we'd love to have you back on that show with us as well.
Yeah, 2 kept by. I picked up another 2 tonight off Ken. For any of your listeners that are on the fence with the beer box, the 200 Fathoms is the reason to buy the beer box and the 200 Fathoms off Ken. Like, with Sterling as strong as it is at the moment, it's €8.49 for a 10% barrel aged Imperial Stout, 500 mils of Galway's finest. You'd be mad not to. It's a limited edition. Very limited edition.
When it's gone, it's gone.
And so let's just take that back. It's the same price as the can of Gamma Ray that I bought on Thursday night.
I was just about to say that.
At the moment, pretty much.
And by Ken, you mean drinkstore.ie, right?
Yeah, drinkstore.ie. Obviously, I'm sure it'll be in the show notes and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, really superb beer. Another home run from the lads at Galway Bay.
Cool. Was there any other little bits of Irish news you want to do before we get onto the beer, guys?
I just had a couple of bits. The first Irish gluten-free craft beer. It's made by Brewery down in Cork, in West Cork, called Nine White Deer. They launched it there just after St. Paddy's Day on the 19th. They're calling it, I'm probably pronouncing this totally wrong, Saor.
Yeah,
right?
You're right.
Which is the Irish word for free. So essentially, Saor. It's described just as a gently hopped, refreshing and easy drinking beer. But I suppose the fact that it's a gluten-free beer and that they're able to stand over it with independent lab testing is a significant development in the market, and it's quite a good idea because there's obviously quite a lot of celiacs around, and there should be an opportunity to try decent beer every now and then. And one of my favourite breweries, 8 Degrees down in Cork, they've just released a smash pale ale with a hop that's been brand new in from Australia called Enigma. They're not the first brewery in Europe to get it. I believe Colonel picked them to the post there. But Scott and Cam sneaked some back from a recent trip down that neck of the woods. And it's described as having flavours of rock melon or red currant, depending on your taste buds. But that's bottled and kegged and available now at the moment. So it's really fresh. Got a few bottles there this evening as well. Had it there at the Patrick's Festival. Very juicy drop. Be perfect barbecue beer.
Cool. So, shall we get on to this week's beer then?
Yay!
Yes. I'm
Okay.
so thirsty here tonight.
Right, the latest instalment in our Irish beers. This is... Now, is the brewery called Brew, or is it called... It is called Brew. Okay.
Brew, yeah.
Planning ahead, as always. It's an Irish red craft beer, so the label says, called Rua, R-U-A, from the Brewery in County Meath. Am I saying that properly?
Mead.
Meath?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like mead, but with a TH at the end.
So not Meath, it's Meath. Okay.
Yeah.
In Ireland. So let's get this poured out. Janice is halfway through a pint already.
I've got my guzzling glass at the go again tonight because I'm anticipating another guzzler.
Janice has just inhaled that.
Oh, yeah.
She's on a second bottle already.
This is it's a lovely colour. It is a lovely deep red hue to it. I've got it poured with a beautiful thick white foamy head as well. It just looks like such an inviting pint.
Oh yeah, and it's bubbly as fuck.
Yeah.
Very nice carbonation on that one. It's a lovely, yeah, like you say, lovely goldy red colour. Nice decent head on it.
Yep. Good aromas as well. A little bit of fruit, a little bit of spice in there.
You kind of get that hint of kind of tangerine there from the Cascade. Just a faint hint of it. I suppose, like, we know the guys who brew this beer very well. It being our local brewery, they're literally 6 miles away.
Yeah. A stone throw away.
You must be happy to have a brewery churning out this sort of stuff.
Sorry?
You must be happy to have a brewery churning out this sort of stuff then.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Janice, you sound very excited there.
This is just my absolute favourite beer in the entire planet. I love the stuff. If
Okay.
I hooked up to an IV of it, it would be awesome.
Well, we look forward to your thoughts, Janice, as we proceed.
What?
We look forward to your feedback as we proceed. Shall we get into it, guys?
Poor old Dave from Bo Bristol's heart is breaking.
Oh, he knows I love him too. So.
I was going to say, I'm sure the last time Janice was on, she said exactly the same thing about Bo Bristol's Amber.
Everybody knows Brew is my favourite.
Right, let's get into it. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Sláinte.
Sláinte.
What I like about it is it's not heavily carbed, which adds to the guzzling factor.
Oh, yeah. I've just taken a great big gulp of that, or a number of great big gulps of it. And as you say, yeah, it's not overly fizzy. It's really well balanced, and it just makes it really easy to drink. I think that tangerine aroma that you was talking about comes through on the flavour really strongly at the start there, and it just begins to give way to kind of a soft bitterness at the end. It's a really, really enjoyable pint, and that's just from the first taste of it.
No, I'm glad we got guests on tonight, Steve, because I can't taste fuck all.
Oh, mate,
So
you're
I'll leave it
missing out here.
I'll leave it to you.
Hashtag poor Mark.
Hashtag sympathy. So I'll leave it to you three to discuss.
Let's have Janice's thoughts then. Let's see how unbiased this review is.
It's the caramelly sweetness that I love from it, with the maltiness in it as well, and it's just that hint of bitterness finish to it. Just makes me just want more and more. Like, I could easily go on a session and just drink this all day.
That's a pretty bold statement about a beer, to say that you'd be quite happy to stay on one beer for the entire day.
Oh, I would. Yeah, I would be more than happy to stay on this for an entire day. And I have done many a time.
So 4.2%, it is quite sessionable.
It is. From knowing the lads, I did ask them about that. I said, like, would you ever think of upping the ABV a bit? And he said, well, no, we kind of want people to be able to quaff it all day and, drink a few pints of it without getting full and, getting too leery. But what I really like about the beer is the branding. It's quite striking off the shelf. I know that they got a very good graphic designer to do it, but tying it into the legends of Celtic mysticism like Cuchulainn and, basing it around the huge amount of historical sites that are within, 20 miles of where they brew. It's very clever, but at the same time, it's visually very striking, particularly when you see their stands at the festivals. They stand out, and I suppose that's part of the battle as well. That the battle that the beer sticks out on the shelf, because otherwise you just walk right past it.
Yeah, it's not your typical craft label, is it? It's quite smart.
Yeah, it's quite polished, but I think they've actually evolved really quickly in a really short space of time. Like, you probably see the same in a lot of breweries in the UK. They start out with a production kit of a certain size, and then very quickly they realise, hang on a second, we're getting way more demand than what we can actually brew. And that's the same as happened with Brew. They're actually continually, upgrading their capacity because the demand for the product is very good. Obviously, Rua is part of their core range of beers. They've got a stout called Dove. They've got a pale ale IPA called Ree, which is the Irish word for king. And they have a lager as well, Pilsner style lager. So that'll be their core range, and they do brew specials as well.
And the Brew, the flagship beer.
And brew pale ale as well, yeah, which is draft only. But Rua was the first brew drink I had. That would have been at the RDS All Ireland Beer Festival in September 13.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was just blown away by it, because red ales are it's not even probably a red ale in a traditional definition. It's probably more of an amber ale. But the first time I tasted it, I was blown away by its difference to, say, I think Franciscan Wells Rebel Red was on the stand next to them. And it kind of really appealed to my kind of hop-headedness, but it's just really smooth. It's really easy to drink. It has that kind of sweet caramel flavour that Janice was alluding to, but it also has that subtle bitterness at the end that I kind of really like. And a little bit of dryness in there as well.
I think what you say there about the hop profile is spot on, actually, Wayne, because I think there's enough in there to satisfy even the most obsessive of hop heads like myself. I'm getting the flavours of the hops, and it is giving me that lovely dry bitter finish that I look for, but it's not giving me the worrying face pinch that you get when you take a good guzzle of a 7.5% beer that's full of hops. It's so well balanced for the ABV. And there's just so much flavour going on in it, and you keep getting different flavours every time you take a swig of it.
Yeah, it's just rock. It's, we all have those beers that we'll always turn to. It's one of those for us.
Well, I've actually even used this in a recipe for making a cheddar and chive white bread loaf.
Ooh.
And it was awesome.
Just, yeah. Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Does this only come in bottle, or do they do kegged versions of this as well? There's a cask version in this as well.
Even amazing on cask.
Oh, I bet it's as smooth as anything, isn't it?
It's actually, it's really interesting. I've always said to Paddy and Dara that the beers are really well suited to cask, and they have actually started exporting cask to the UK now.
They did, because some untapped buddy of mine was drinking Bon.
Yeah, which is their wheat beer.
Which is their wheat beer on cask, and he said it was pretty good.
Yeah, I know that I was talking to them today, and I just can't remember the name of the distributor they use, but they've been cropping up now in the northwest of England, around Liverpool, Manchester, on cask. It is a delightful experience on cask, because when the cask brewer, then you usually dry hop it as well. So it has that extra bit. Like the one place you'll normally get it on cask will actually be down in Cork, oddly enough, because their main distributor is based in Cork. And you'll quite often see that their beers are available on cask in some of the better pubs down in Cork, which is another great city for craft beer in this country. And, I think we were down there for the Framwell Festival a couple of years ago, and they have a cask festival every year in February time. And they had Brewer and Dove on cask, and both of them were just superbly conditioned. I know that Dara spent some time with it. Is it the Dancing Duck Brewery up in Derby? Is that the name of them?
Possibly.
There's
lots of breweries over here to keep track of them all.
It's just, as I suppose they went over to kind of really learn how to, condition the beer properly for cask, and to make sure it's in its best condition, because I suppose cask is obviously a niche within a niche over here. It's most Irish consumers probably wouldn't be aware of a bad pint of cask unless it was actually at the stage like it tasted like vinegar. Where in a lot of cases, if that was in the UK, you wouldn't be able to get away with the same kind of mistakes. But yeah, they've started exporting. They've recently sent a big export order over to Canada as well. I think they sent over, was it 200 kegs?
I thought it was 438.
See how she knows this stuff? 438 kegs to Canada.
Someone's got to know it, Wayne.
Of Brewer, and I think they sent over the pale ale as well. But again, like, the feedback they've been getting has been quite strong, and as we've been saying, it's a real guzzler.
What other beers do they do as well? I can see that they do a craft stout.
Yeah, they do a stout called Dove, which is available in bottle, and it's coming back to Nitro Keg.
Okay.
They also had a nitro bottled version of Dove very shortly after they launched. Kind of think left-hand milk stout nitro. Mm-hmm. I think they were the first craft brewery in Europe to try a nitro bottle, but they'll probably bring it back as a special edition. They've got which is their pale ale, IPA they call it, just Irish pale ale, and then they have a kind of lower bitterness and more malty ale called it's just called Brew. It's their flagship beer.
And then they've had a couple of specials as well called Bon, which was the wheat beer, and then there was another one.
More, which is a saison.
Which was a saison.
Okay, so they've got a nice little line of beers then.
Yeah, and I think they definitely.
Oh, and they had their whiskey one.
They did a barrel aged version of the stout as well. Now, they didn't release it commercially. Oh yeah, they did release it commercially. They sold it in a few select off licenses. I had a couple of bottles of it, but compared to 200 Fathoms, it's not in the same league. It kind of wasn't aged long enough, I don't think, in the whiskey, but maybe it wasn't high enough ABV to carry the whiskey flavors as well. But they are very experimental in terms of they'll try to brew things. They do a fair bit of contract brewing for other breweries as well. But at the same time, they do have some very interesting beers planned for 2015 from talking to them in the pipeline and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out of them in the next few months.
Okay, and how long have these guys been going for?
Since August 13.
Right.
Not long at all then, really.
No, they're very young. They're very young, but they also picked up a very big nationwide distribution deal very early on, like within the first 12 months, that saw them going into one of the largest wholesalers in the country. So they will be seen in like the third largest supermarket chain in Ireland, which has given them access to a lot of convenience stores as well, because they would all buy off that wholesaler. Again, they've had one or two detractors for that, but ultimately they're in business to brew and sell beer. And I would never begrudge anyone who is successful in that objective, because you don't set up a craft brewery because it's all hugs and kisses and everyone wants to get along. You do it to make money, ultimately, at the end of the bloody day. And people who can't see that, you know, they need a dose of reality, like a clip around the ear hole. But, you know, at the same time, they have a lot of penetration because of that. You can go out to the wilds of Mayo and there'll be brew in bottles in the local supermarket.
But even the two guys are so sound, and they came from completely different backgrounds. Like, there's one of them that used to be a lawyer and gave up his day job, and then the other guy was an engineer, wasn't he?
Yeah. Both came from very different professions to brew beer full time.
Totally packed it in and started up their own brewery. I just think it's incredible. And they're two sound lads as well. They're so nice.
Yeah. They couldn't be more different from each other. So,
chalk and cheese.
But they work very well together. That's the thing. It's the differences that make the business. Like it's just themselves and one other full time brewer now. It was just them two for a long time. So they've got someone now solid looking after sales for them. They can kind of look after recipe development and account management and stuff. So it's kind of expanding at a very rapid pace still for them, which they're very busy. But, you know, it's good to see. I'm glad to see that two local lads are making a real fist of it and producing solid beer as well.
And it's great to see that it's in our hometown in so many different bars as well. It's in different restaurants, even locally in the town that's brewed in Trim. Majority of the pubs have it on draft there. The local hotel has it as well. Like, it's just they're doing really, really well locally as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm going to try something.
We're going to experiment here. Wayne's going to tarnish my poor lovely bottle of Rua. Actually, no, tarnish your own glass.
What are you doing?
Of the expression black and tan, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm just going to blend a half of brew Dove with a half of brew Rua and see what happens.
Okay, so we've got some live blending on the Beer O'Clock show here.
The Dove is now in the Rua. It actually looks nice.
It's about 50% mix. So, like, I don't know if Steve or Mark's camera is still working or if he can even see us anymore.
I can't.
Let me just see. Are we back now?
Yes.
Can you see it?
That's a fair looking glass.
Yeah, it's also branded.
And it's a brew one. Way!
But yeah, like I remember when they had an event recently. I tried this on the bar. I was trying to push the black and tans, and Dara wasn't too happy. He's like, "What the hell are you doing?" It's like, just trying something. He's like, "Do not mix the two. It's like Ghostbusters. Don't cross the streams."
He's tasting right now. Well,
Janice, keep that commentary going. I think it's brilliant.
Well. Tastes like more?
It just tastes like more. It's the Dove is quite a sweet stout. A lot of chocolate and vanilla and, you know, roasted flavours on it, and it's kind of mellowed that kind of hot bitterness out. It just made it really smooth and sweet. It's just, oh yeah. I think I might have struck gold. I might have to do something about that.
Actually, yeah.
Janice looked unsure.
I think you're onto something there.
So there we go.
It does actually taste really, really nice. The two blended together is actually really, really nice.
That's actually really tasty. I'm actually quite surprised at how that turned out because I
thought it was going to be vile.
There we go. Beer O'Clock show exclusive once again at the forefront of the craft beer scene. In this instance, the Irish craft beer scene, where we've seen the first live blend on the Beer O'Clock show of two of Brew's beers.
That would be amazing with blue cheese.
Yeah, it would. Something really strong to contrast that flavour, actually.
Yeah.
All I know is that when this airs, Dara's probably going to come around my house and just punch me in the face going, what, you're mixing our beers together?
I was going to say you're going to start getting knocked on the door soon. As they just know that you're doing it.
They know where we live. That's the worst thing. But, I'll be out and about one of the days and I'll just get a bottle of beer thrown at me. And it's like, don't mix our beers again. But that is actually really, really tasty. I could imagine that with the Nitro Stout. The Nitro Stout is kind of just coming back after a period of experimentation with the nitrogen mix and so on, and it's pouring as fantastic as ever. But I think that mixed Rua with the Nitro Stout mix will just be sensational.
That is lovely.
But yeah, live beer blending of Brewery. You heard it here first.
Go you, Dunny.
Steve, can we get your final comments on this beer, pal?
Yeah, mate, it's gone. It evaporated again for the third or fourth time this season. We've really struck gold with some of the quaffability of some of these beers. Just really, really smooth, well balanced. Lots of flavors going on in there. There's tangerine, there's caramel, there's hints of spices going on in there as well towards the end. You get a hint of the hops that are in there, but they're not overpowering. They're just very well balanced. All in all, a cracking little beer.
All I'm getting is a glass of malts. I'm not getting any of the aromas because my nose is blocked up. I'm really annoyed.
That's such a shame, mate. It's such a shame.
We'll have to send you over another bottle.
We'll send you another bottle.
And Janice is getting into another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how much she loves it.
Night.
I don't care.
Right, Stevie, do we have a prize this week, mate?
We do, mate. We've actually got two this week because I just couldn't separate them. So first one up, and again another first time winner of the this prize, but yet a name that we're all too familiar with. So Doody actually jointly wins the prize this week. He posted a great picture of a bottle of Saltaire Blonde by the river in the sunshine yesterday, which up until about 3:00 today had it. And then in a sly move, our old friend Son of a Gun posted an amazing picture of Brewery in his back garden in all its sunshine and glorious redness.
He's got an advantage this season.
He has, and he was upset last week that he didn't get the live prize on the live show. So there you go. This week I've had to split it, and it's Doody and Son of a Gun. Both of those pictures are on our Instagram account. They're also in the show notes, and if you want to enter your own picture into the weekly prize competition to win a great big box of absolutely nothing, make sure you tag your picture on Instagram with "Cheers, guys."
Yeah, and Doody and Son of a Gun can split that nothingness between themselves.
They can.
Make sure you do it fair, right down the middle.
Yes,
boys.
They can enjoy it across the Irish Sea in all its Celtic glory between the two of them. So there we have it.
Speaking of the Irish beers, you can get the Irish Beer O'Clock Show beer box, curated by Ian and Wayne, from drinkstore.ie. You can find the link on our website. Just go to Season 6 Beers, and the link will be there. Make sure you get a bottle of 200 Fathoms as well from Galway Bay.
Just fill it. As Wayne said earlier, the pound is so strong against the euro at the moment that you'd be a fool not to just fill that box full of all the great Irish beer.
Fill it with cans of fucking Beavertown and sell them to the Elgin when you come in. Make yourself a profit.
Brilliant. Great marketing operation there.
The Beer O'Clock Show is proud to be supported by Ales by Mail, your premier destination for bottled real ales delivered directly to your door. Visit alesbymail.co.uk and use the code BOCS10 for a 10% discount. Wayne and Janice, thank you very much for joining us yet again.
Our pleasure.
People can find you at irishbeersnob.com, is that right?
That's right.
And Wayne's at Irish Beer Snob on Twitter, and the lovely Janice is at Mrs. Beer Snob. What's coming up next week, Stevie?
Next week we've got an interesting beer, which I'm going to struggle to pronounce. I've even had to tweet the brewery to make sure I get the pronunciation right. But next week we are drinking Bocaron, which is a 4.8% pale ale from Spain. That has been brewed with Mediterranean seawater.
Sounds delicious.
Yes, can't wait.
You can find us on Twitter at Beer O'Clock Show, on the website at beeroclockshow.co.uk, and on Untappd at Beer O'Clock Show, on Instagram at Beer O'Clock Show Steve. I'm on Untappd at Roku, and I'm on Twitter at Roku Beer. Right, until next week, Stevie, thank you very much.
Been the highlight of my week.
Janice and Wayne, thanks again.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
See you soon.
Done.
Until next week, bye-bye.